Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, please do subscribe, like the video, and turn on post notifications. So, today's what if, or like multiple what ifs or something, is what if Deku had a fire quirk? Alright, so let's not waste anybody's time. Let's get right to it. So, Deku, ever since he was 4, so we're gonna start off when Deku is 4. He'd be going to the quirk doctor with excitement, thinking he could either get his mom's quirk or his dad's quirk. So he'd just be excited, thinking there's probably not a possibility he could be quirkless, as Deku thought he'd wouldn't. As Deku thought if both of his parents had quirks, and then there's no chance of being quirkless. And Inko kind of thought of it like that too, so she wasn't worried about Deku being an outcast and being quirkless. So they get to there, right? The quirk doctor would tell Deku, and Inko that Deku has a fire quirk. Deku would be filled up with excitement as the next day, at school they'd show each other their quirks, and people would be pretty impressed with Deku's quirk as Deku's fire emitted a blue flame. It wasn't just any normal, regular, old, flame. It was, and after it, Deku's hand seemed, a little burnt, But, Deku just thought it's because he couldn't, control his quirk, so, he didn't think of it much, Plus, Deku was just excited, wanting to just become a hero, But ever since that day, everything went downhill. As Deku would just, as Deku would start training, going out to, as Deku would start, training-ish, in his room, kind of, trying to, learn, would be in his backyard, no, not in his back, would go out, to, the forest sometimes, and try and learn how to control his flames a lot better. As Deku realized his flames could be emitted from anywhere. So say if his hands were tied up right, he could just breathe fire, But as breathing fire from his mouth would hurt him a lot more than, firing fire out of his hands. So, Deku would just, be training a lot more, ever since, he got his, So, fast forward to when Deku was in, middle school. Everyone wouldn't bully him as much. Deku wouldn't still stand up to Bakugo, There'd still be that rivalry, or like that. Bakugo would still be Deku's bully, but, it wouldn't be as severe as it is in the anime. It'd be, because Kanshan now can make fun that Deku is quirkless, but instead he'd make fun of that his quirk is kind of useless, since he can't use it without, burning himself. But at this point, Deku is able to somewhat control it. And Deku would, kind of stand up to Bakugo. but, you know, everything would go the exact same, you know. But when he's going, you know, home through the shortcut, you know, or like, you know, during, like, under, like, the bridge thing, yeah. You know, when the sludge villain popped out, Deku would just, you know, be, like, scared out of his mind, but, you know, ready to fight. You know, so Deku, you know, would start, you know, would listen to what the sludge villain was saying and, you know, hear that sludge villain is planning on killing Deku, or him. So, you know, Deku would start shooting off flames, and the sludge villain, you know, would shoot, as the sludge villain would dodge a few, you know, of his fireballs, you know, but a few would hit him, and the sludge villain would, as the sludge villain, you know, would seem, you know, like, he's, like, pretty hurt, you know, as Deku's flames weren't, you know, just, like, you know, just blue for, like, aesthetic and stuff. You know, it was because, like, their heat, and, you know, and there were more, and just, you know, as a reference, they were stronger than Dobby's flames. You know, and for those of you, you know, like, yeah, and Dobby's flames are said to be stronger than Endeavor's, and Endeavor's flames are enough to melt to completely destroy a Nomu's head that has a regeneration quirk. So, you know, Deku's fire quirk would be like top tier of fire quirks. So, you know, Deku would just, you know, start to feel, you know, a sudden pain in his hands, and he'd look down at his hands and see that, you know, that they're burning up, you know. As the sludge villain would get closer and closer, you know, as Deku would, you know, start to breathe, you know, fire, you know, the sludge villain, you know, would, you know, be surprised, you know, of how powerful his flames are. You know, as All Might would appear from the sewers with the Texas Smash, as, you know, as the sludge villain would be knocked out, and as Deku would get a glimpse of All Might before he passed out, Deku would wake up and immediately ask All Might for his autograph in his journal, right? No, he'd open it, see, you know, All Might already did give him it. So, you know, he'd ask All Might, can he be a hero? All Might would say yes. You know, with your quirk, if you learn how to control it someday, you'd probably be a great hero. You know, and Deku would just, you know, be extremely excited, you know, to go to high school, because that's when you can choose to go to one of the best hero schools. And Deku, you know, yeah, and Deku would just, like, absolutely be excited, you know, absolutely ecstatic, as, you know, Deku would just, you know, as Deku would go home, you know, and look into the mirror, you know, when he got home, you know, his mom was in the kitchen cooking up food, you know, as he'd see that his face was all charred up, as Deku, you know, would, you know, as Deku would, you know, as Deku would ask his mom to take him to the hospital to see if, you know, they could, like, you know, fix his mouth or something. or get rid of, the charring and stuff, as, the hospital, as the doctors would try, they'd, be able to heal some of it, but most of it was already scarred. So, Deku would be left with, Deku would be left with, his face being a bit charred up, at the end. Because, as they had most of the, as I'm gonna say Inko was pretty rich, like not rich, but not like even close to as rich as Momo, but like, rich enough to the point where she, you could consider Inko rich, So yeah. So Inko, would pay for, and ask for the doctors with healing quirks to, come heal Deku, as they would, Deku, wouldn't be as scarred, but his face would still be pretty charred up, so, after that they left, Deku, when Deku got home, he didn't even want to eat. He just, as Deku wouldn't, as Deku would just, as Deku, would just not be, in the mood to, like, eat or anything. As Deku, would be, like, would be sad, but, think, that, like, there are probably many pro heroes that have, that have quirks that don't make them look normal, and honestly, Deku just kind of felt annoyed at himself for being a little sad and mad about his face being charred up for the rest of his life. So Deku, just went out, ate dinner with his mom, Next day at school, Kachan even made more. Kachan bullied him the hardest he has ever in, years, So, Kachan at the end of school would ask for Deku to come to the forest, as Deku would come, as, he'd get there, to the point where they were gonna meet, Kachan would say they're gonna go on a bit of a hike, they'd go up, but then out of nowhere, Bakugo's goons, like 5 of them, would jump out and would just start beating Deku up. As Kachan would tell them to hold Deku still, so he could go at Deku, But before Kachan even landed his first explosion, Deku would just be entirely fed up with this whole situation, and fire would start, to kind of engulf Deku, as the goons stopped holding Deku's arms, as Bakugo, just jumped back, as the flame stopped, as Deku got up, and just gave Bakugo a death stare. As Bakugo, wouldn't care and just, would just try to send his biggest explosion he could possibly throw. Without, hurting himself at Deku, as Deku, would counter with, as Deku, would also, throw a fireball, at Kachan, it was pretty big, So, the two colliding, a smoke cloud appeared, So, the goons just started going on to town on Deku, Kachan was like, was looking at Deku with, with a death stare that Deku hasn't seen in, well, years. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. Fast forward to the end of the year, Kanchan wouldn't really bully Deku all that much. Like, wouldn't actually, like, hit Deku all that much or, like, fight Deku. As, he was kind of scared at Deku at this point because he's never seen Deku act up like this. And honestly, Kanchan knew that Deku's fire quirk was OP, but he never showed any fear of Deku as Kanchan still thought Deku was, the weakest of the weak. He just had a pretty good quirk. That's like it. So, fast forward to, when they say Deku wants to go to UA, they, a few people would chuckle a bit, but, the whole class, especially the teacher, knew that Deku's fire quirk was just overpowered. As, by this point, Deku's fire quirk would be able to level a whole forest with, a few fireballs, as Deku, would just, as Deku would learn how to control his quirk a whole lot better, as he'd be able, to, like, to throw a fireball, as Deku would learn how to, to change, to increase or decrease the temperature of his fireballs and his fire, and also, his quirk wouldn't be like, just like activating, fireball, sometimes, it'd have to accumulate. Like, if you wanted to throw, like, a big fireball, he could accumulate, it. Like, if he doesn't use his quirk for, like, a whole week, right? It's like, how, like, oh, never mind. I was gonna say something, but I'm just getting confused, too, with this. So, yeah. Oh, whoops. Yeah. So, Deku, would just, like, start training, as the UA entrance exams would, come up, and Deku would sort of ace them. As Deku would not have one for all now. Instead, by this time, one for all would be given to Mirio. So, Deku would, have like 30 points by now. Then he'd, get to where the 0 point is and see that, it's that nice girl that helped him from, breaking his face on the ground earlier. So, as he'd, start throwing fireballs at the 0 pointer, as Tenya Ida, or, well, this random dude would, with engines on his legs, would start, would run as fast as he could to help, the nice girl from earlier. As Deku would be trying to slow down the 0 pointer with his fireballs, as it was pretty effective, as the 0 pointer was approaching, about to step on, the nice girl, and that random dude that made fun of him, or like just told him to like, to stop muttering, yeah. So honestly, Deku, knowing that 2 lives are at stake, he just honestly, as Deku would just unleash a ton, his strongest fireball he could throw, kind of like a Kamehameha, but not like, like that, as, Tenya Ida and Ochako would be able to escape or, yeah. you know, so, they'd all pat. So, so at the end, Recovery Girl would, heal them up, and heal Deku's wounds he got, from, the Kamehameha. As regular fireballs now wouldn't do anything to Deku, as Deku's body was now, like, used to it, You know how, with One for All, right? It destroyed Deku's body at 100%, like that. But, Deku, and, his body wasn't, it was like, just a little insight, his body wasn't really used to One for All. So whenever he used, 20% and tensed up, his body, and, his damage, it wasn't, his body wasn't used to that damage, I think, because, the stuff from the manga now, So, Deku's, body would, be honestly built now for his fire quirk. So, regular fireballs wouldn't even char up his hands. Wait, his hands wouldn't even be charred up the slightest bit. And that Kamehameha wouldn't really do much to Deku's hands. As Deku, didn't want to burn off his hands, doing it, as, Deku totally could, but, he was working at, 20%, at 5% of, his fire powers. Oh, yeah. As the rest just couldn't, at all, just couldn't, he couldn't control, after 5%, he could, his arm, he just, start to char up, and, he'd start losing a bit of control over, his flames. So that is where I'm going to leave this what if off at. And, yeah, I'm surprised I'm posting a lot today. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching this. I appreciate your support, that you guys are, that I also appreciate that you guys are even watching this right now. So, yeah, and, just thank you, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.